Welcome to the Remote Career Revolution Roundtable, where we ask the remote work pros to share their experiences with you. And if you are ready to leave that soul-crushing grind and work in an environment that energizes you, that fires up your passion, then stay right here, because we are going to answer some of the biggest questions that you've been sending in over the past week with people who are in it every single day. I'm Tammy Alvarez, the creator of the Career Winner Circle, where we empower business leaders to make a big impact and love every Monday morning again. And I am here with two of my absolute favorite people. So I've got Cynthia Beauchamp, who's a senior audit analyst at Axicom Consulting, and Phil Dixon, who's the vice president of customer and team success at Enjoy Global. So welcome, you guys. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
So we've got the first question that you guys are ready to answer today. And the question is, how did you decide to take the leap into remote work? So Phil, why don't you kick us off?
Well, mine, I didn't have a choice because I was making a job change. And to be honest, I was very nervous about it when I started out. I thought I was going to miss out on all the career opportunities that come with the banter and the schmoozing and the water cooler talk and all of that stuff. So, but I was looking for another position. I wanted a little bit of flexibility. I had really put about, I was in a startup environment and I had put about 90% of myself into the job, along with a 2-hour commute, each day. And I had decided also that the job didn't work out, but also I took some stock when it was working out. And I just decided, like, is this the right thing for my family and myself? And do I want to put, 90, 100, 110% of myself into my job and have no flexibility, get home at 7, 8 at night. And so when I was looking for something else, working remotely was really important to me, even though I was still nervous because back then it wasn't as common as it is now and as accepted, and there weren't as many opportunities. So this was 6 years ago. So it was still a little foreign, but I moved into tech, and I work for a tech company now, and I couldn't be happier. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but
absolutely.
For me, it was a family and decision. I wanted a little bit more flexibility and time savings. But I had some apprehension around it, to be totally frank and honest, that because I'd worked in offices since I was 19 years old. And I was worried about that camaraderie and that side of it, but I don't have any of those concerns anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So you are thriving, which is amazing. So Cynthia, how about you? How did you decide to take the leap?
Well, I didn't actually take the leap because when I was in the banking industry, being part of technology, obviously, we started having our workers pick 1 to 2 days where they could work remote. We really wanted to entice people to not only stay with the company in the banking industry, which is pretty tight on remote work, but we wanted to not only attract new workers. So we started migrating a lot of our staff. We started off with 1 day, and then my team members, I said, hey, pick 2 days, and do your thing. Fast forward, I decided to retire from technology and my job. Pandemic hit, and I decided to go back into the world of working for personal reasons, and I just needed to have my hands back in technology. So I looked primarily for remote work because I wanted to travel. I wanted to be able to, pick up my RV and move it anywhere I wanted to, or go to an island in Belize and spend some time, meeting great people, obviously, and having fun. So it didn't take me long to find an opportunity, and my whole company right now as a contractor are spread across the whole United States. So we're in every time zone, and it's been wonderful, just wonderful. It's a little different not having to, see people face to face, but now with a lot of the video calls that I can have work, it's great.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting point because yes, for those of you who don't know, Cynthia and I are neighbors here in Belize, right? So and I'm just so inspired by her story, and she's a fantastic leader as well. And I think for those of you who are wondering, should I or shouldn't I? You know, between the great resignation and all of these things going on, it just seems like all the cool kids are doing it. So should you or shouldn't, you know? So as you're thinking through this, and we've got more questions that are coming up in the series, but really give some thought to where do you want to take your career? And then when you think about whole life, we've all redefined success for ourselves in a post-COVID world, and it's changed. And so many companies have gotten smart and realized that calling everybody back to work is not the best idea ever if you want to attract and retain the best talent. So use that as an opportunity to really explore options that you haven't been able to explore before. And I will see you during our next question.